There's a problem that most construction businesses are finding on LinkedIn, and a problem that most concrete companies on LinkedIn fall into. And it's often the reason why they think that LinkedIn doesn't work, right? And here I'm going to go step by step exactly how you can make concrete work on LinkedIn. So, most of you guys, you're doing the same thing, right? And it's very simple. You're posting your photos of your pours and your skips and any other photos, right? And you're treating LinkedIn as almost a graveyard, right? You're just dumping any photo that you get, okay? And that's a key mistake. And you're doing the same thing that all these other concrete companies are doing. And that's why nobody engages, nobody messages you, and that's why you're not getting any leads. And that's probably why you're thinking to yourself, well, LinkedIn, it doesn't work, right? For concrete companies, LinkedIn doesn't work. But I'm here to sort of propose an alternative narrative. The people who hire you, the people who are looking for you on LinkedIn, they are there. Developers, architects, they're on LinkedIn every single day. The attention, it 100% exists on LinkedIn. I can tell you that for certain. You just are not capturing it properly. And here today, I'm going to help you guide you through exactly step by step how I would do it, how we do it, and the exact steps you need to take. But before we get into that, I just want to clarify a few things. So, why should you listen to me? Who am I? Why should you listen to me? Why listen to this 22-year-old? What do I know? Right. And it's a valid question. So I'm going to answer that very quickly. We've had a lot of experience, specifically with concrete companies, and we use this method every day and it works. I'm going to show you exactly what we do so you have a full understanding of how it works, why it works. And I'm also going to show you what wastes your time, what's not worth doing, and other things you can do instead. And this works for concrete companies specifically, but we also use this for passive house companies. We also use this for property developers. So it works all across the construction industry, but I'm going to talk today specifically about for concrete companies. And what will you get from watching this video? This is what I promised to you. You're going to have a profile that works for you whilst you're on site. You'll know exactly what to post and when to post it. You're going to be able to build trust before anyone even calls you. And I'm going to give you a way to start conversation that doesn't feel like you're selling to people, because nobody wants to feel like a salesman, right? Now, there's two aspects to this. You have your company profile and you have your personal profile. Now, you do want to be setting up both of these. Your personal profile should just be your name, your full name, and your company profile should obviously be your company's official name. Now, your company profile, this is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm not going to go into too much detail here because it's quite obvious. Just put in your company name, your company logo, all the rest of it, and you don't need to worry too much. And the reason I say that about this is because most of our focus is going to be on the personal profile. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but personal profiles have up to 5 to 10 times more engagement than company profiles. Okay. Now, this is important because this means that's going to guide our entire strategy, right? We're going to be using our personal profile to grow, to start conversations. We're going to be using the company profile just as a way to, if anyone wants to have a Google of us and sees us, then there's going to be a company profile. There's going to be something there. But in terms of the main leads, the lead getter, it's going to be the personal profile because of the way LinkedIn is set up. So that's something you need to come to terms with. I know a lot of people don't like it, but you're just going to have to get used to it on LinkedIn. That's the way it works. It's also important to note that personal profiles get 5 to 10 times more engagement, but then also when you're messaging people, when you're generating these leads, it gets almost 3 times a higher response rate. So this is a non-negotiable, to be honest. And I think, in business, in the construction industry, relationships are a massive part of this, and people buy from people. I'm sure you would agree. So it does make sense, even just from that perspective. But I am telling you, the stats do show that personal profiles are a lot better. So there's a few elements that I want to go through. So you've got your profile picture, you've got your banner, you've got your biography, your description, and you've got a featured section. So let's just take a look. So just for illustration purposes, here I've got LinkedIn open, and I'm going to go through my business partners just as an example so you can see sort of an illustration. Obviously, this will need to be for your concrete company or your construction company, but this is just an illustrative purpose. So you've got your headshot, just clean, just a photo of you, nothing fancy. You can get rid of the background if you want, as you can see here, but even if you've got a background, as long as it's a clear headshot. It would be good if you had a hard hat on, for example, if you're on site a lot, it just helps reinforce that image. And a good idea is that if someone can't tell who you are, who they're speaking to by your image, then you're going to need to change it. Okay, next, your banner. So this is probably the first or the second thing that people see when they click onto your profile. They'll see your face. Now, you don't need to take forever to do your banner. You can use Canva. It's free. Create your banner for yourself. And the main thing you want to address with this is what you build, what services you provide, and where. So if you can have your location in there, obviously for us, we're international, so we don't have a location. Now, I'll show you a good example from someone in the concrete industry. So just as an example, I really like this guy's banner. It's simple. It's got some repairs going on there, assets safe, very simple, got a number, that's it. Don't overcomplicate this. Now you have your headline. So this is one of the first things that people will read as well. And you don't want to waste it just saying director at XYZ because, people don't really care. It doesn't really explain very much. Okay. So here again, in this example, you can see I turn construction and property flow pros into client magnets without the corporate fluff. So people are quite split on this. In my opinion, I think this is better, but you could also do, for example, you can see here, female property investor and developer of the year. Some people prefer that. Personally, I think something along these lines is more effective because it just conveys immediately what you do, how you do it, and who it's for. So personally, my recommendation would be that. So for example, concrete, even something very simple like concrete pumping across Surrey, something like that would suffice. It doesn't need to be too complicated. Just don't put director at concrete pump plumbing limited, just do something slightly different. Now, if we go to the featured section, most people leave this blank. So as you can see here, we have one of our frameworks on our websites people can go to figure out whether their digital presence is sufficient or not. But I think for your construction company, your best performing post should be here, something that displays your skill, why people should trust you, and any projects, any really successful projects, tier 1 projects you might have completed, those perform well. Now, I've just noticed my camera's getting quite dark, so apologies if you can barely see me, but we've got to do what we've got to do. Now, let's move on to one of the most important parts is your content, right? You can't be on LinkedIn if you don't have good content. So you need to shift the way that you think about your posts, okay? That's one of the main things I want to get across to you for your concrete company, for your construction company. You need to remember that every single time you post, there will be someone who could potentially use your services watching, okay? And you need to showcase why you are the one for them, because you never know whether that post will be the one that gets them to send you a message, right? Or engage, which then allows you to know that they want to have a discussion with you. I'm going to give you some examples of what doesn't work. Another great pour today, that doesn't work. It doesn't provide much value. Say, if you do 1 or 2 posts like that occasionally, maybe a month, fine. But that can't be your bread and butter posts. Again, project photos with no context or minimal context. What I recommend is you have 3 post types. And this correlates to our weekly cadence, how often we are going to be posting a week and how many times we recommend that you post a week. It's not complicated. The more you post, the better the results you'll see. That tends to be the case. But obviously, most people don't want to be posting 5 times, 7 times a week. If you can post 7 times a week, that's great. So we recommend posting 3 times a week. And obviously, if you can post more, that's great. But if not, that's fine. 3 times would be the minimum recommendation. And that's why we have our 3 different types of posts that we can post one after the other 3 times a week and it not get too stale, not too repetitive. Okay. So the first post type is a problem with a fix. Okay. Say you saw an issue before you poured, you rectified the issue, and then carried on with the pour. Then you can illustrate what would have happened had you not saw that issue and fixed it, how you dealt with it. And then you can quantify that in terms of how much money you might have saved your client. And this will make the person who's scrolling think, okay, this guy, he knows what he's doing. And you want to make sure that the actual, we call it the creative of your post, but the image that you're using, you can vary it. Sometimes people like using AI. AI is fine. But if you have a real life photo of that issue that you rectified, that works amazingly. So that would be my recommendation for your post type 1. Now, again, like I illustrated before, people buy from people. So I know it might be hard, but if you can try and get your foreman to do a video for you, right? And just speaking maybe what's happened on the site that day, why that's important, why it is valuable, how they're providing value, how you're providing value, and just a raw speaking to the video. No script, no nothing. People will love that. And what's crazy is companies are spending £500, £1,000 on getting a professionally made video, and they're getting beat by a foreman talking to the camera with some captions. People just love raw communication. And again, another example that you could use would be the ROI post is what I call this. What did the project actually deliver for the client? How much time was saved? How much money was saved? What risk? Because in the concrete industry, a lot of it is about risk. What risk was avoided? Okay, say this design saved £20,000 in projected future costs if this wasn't rectified. These are just examples you can use. If you have some sort of categories that you can pull from, it helps a lot because you're not going to be, it's hard to stay consistent, and so you're going to want a strategy so that you stay consistent, you have content to pull from on those harder days. Even just a review post, as long as you're staying consistent, that's the most important thing. And the main thing is that you're not showing off. Okay, I know a lot of you guys, you don't like being on the camera, you don't like being online in front of the camera, and you're just showing competence. Okay, and that's not showing off, you're just doing your job. Okay, and just doing your job gets leads. And I think it's important to remember, you might feel awkward, posting your worries, this guy might take the mickey out of me or something, I understand. But the sooner you get over the fear of posting, the more money you're going to make. Okay, let me put it that way. So now you're posting good content, or you should be posting good content. The next step that we would usually take is targeting, right? You want to put out targeted content, and you want to get in front of the people you're looking to do business with. Putting out good content every day or every week is only part of it. So again, as I said, you want to be getting in front of these people, putting your name out there, being in the top of their mind. And you want to build a list, right, of 100 target accounts. Now, how you're going to do this is you're going to see who's engaging with your content. Now, it will take some time. If you're a fresh account, don't expect some crazy results. It's a slow build. Often it can take 4 to 6 months of consistent posting to get results. of 300 likes, 200 likes, 400 likes on your post. So, and some people, if you're not doing it perfectly, it can take even longer. But as that time goes on, you want to build a list of 100 targeted accounts, or accounts you want to target: people, developers, architects, general contractors, anyone who you want to work with, right? And you'll see them liking, or you'll see them commenting, okay? And now, before you message these people, what you want to do is comment, okay? And I know it's tedious, but this is one of the most important parts. You want to comment every single day on their accounts, because one thing that most people don't know with LinkedIn, and they wonder why they're not getting results, is that you have to engage in order to get LinkedIn and other people to engage with your content. So you need to be engaging, liking, and that means commenting as well on other people's posts. And what's key is you're not just putting AI slop out there, right? If you want to use AI, fine, but still use your brain. Think about, okay, how can I add value to this person's post? What's my genuine opinion? Even if it's an offensive opinion, right? Put it out there, because if people engage with your comment, you're going to be increasing your own posts that day or that week, how many likes you're getting on that post. And that's key. And if 10 is too much, even 2 or 3, one good comment is better than 10 great posts. Okay. And here's what happens, and here's why you do it. So firstly, your posts and your account gets pushed. You'll see your engagement on your profile increasing, right? Secondly, you comment, they notice you, right? And this, remember, you're commenting on your ideal customer. Okay. So they're noticing you even more so. They'll click your profile, not all of them, but some of them. And because we've set up your profile correctly, what we ran through, your profile will do most of the work for you, right? Your profile will show them that you are an authority, you know what you're talking about, you have some social credibility because you've been posting, and you're consistent. Now, all you need to do next is the discussion with that ideal customer, okay, who's shown an interest in your profile. And we just call this outreach, okay? Now, you need to be very careful with this, because you've been posting, you've been commenting, right? You've seen someone look at your profile, but you need to be careful at the outreach, because you don't want to shove yourself in there, right? You want to be careful, and you want to treat this person like they are a real human being and develop a relationship. So you're not trying to close anyone. The last thing you want to do in a direct message is close somebody, okay? No closing. You want to start a conversation. That's it. You just want to start a conversation with people. So, a bad DM will be like, hi, I won't write it out. There'll be a, hey, I'm a contractor in Leeds. Give me a DM if you've got any work. Okay, that's shit. Okay, that's just shit. Especially if you just mass send this out to people, right? You'll send it out and you'll get replies from no one. Remember, if you can send it to anyone, it belongs to no one. Now, an alternative, a good DM would be, say you saw them interacting on your profile and they left a comment to say, hey, thanks for your comment regarding XYZ. Is this something you're interested in, or how's business? What you will find is that if you are just giving value, you're just providing value, people will do the selling themselves. We've found with our clients that we'll have this conversation with a prospect and they'll be like, well, can you send me more information on your product? I'm interested in using it. And if it beats the current product we're using, we will use it in our next build. And it's sometimes just something as simple as that, or just starting a conversation, or just saying, hey, let's have a chat about XYZ. That is so much better than just saying, buy my shit, buy my service. One thing you also want to be doing is connecting with people. So this ties into the outreach, because you can't really message people properly without connecting with them. So every week you get about 100 potential connections if you have LinkedIn Premium. And you want to be using these connections on basically your ideal customer. And LinkedIn is great, so I'll take you through it exactly. But let's say I'm in the concrete industry, and I want to connect with or let's say I'm selling to concrete guys. Okay. Now I just search concrete. If we go to show all here. And now, I don't want to be connecting with just some worker at a concrete company, right? So if we click filters, we come down here and we can type in director. So now this will only show us directors. And then if we click second here, we'll only connect with people who we have connections in common with. So that sort of just builds some social authority. And you can just connect with anyone who you might be interested in chatting to, or you want to see your posts so that you can eventually build this relationship with them. This is how you get from no leads on LinkedIn to high quality, high value leads on LinkedIn. So the flow sort of looks like this. You message, they message you, you message them. You'll get a genuine reply, or you'll genuinely reply back. You start a real conversation. That conversation can very easily lead to a coffee call, or that call can easily turn into a qualified opportunity. But the thing to remember is that this flow doesn't work if your profile, if you look like you don't know what you're talking about, if you're not an authority, right? If your content looks shit, again, you're not going to be getting through that conversation. They're going to think you're a nobody, right? Even your website, we've not discussed websites today, but if your website looks awful, they have a quick Google and they see that that looks awful. Again, you're not going to be able to get into that call with them. All of these parts need to work together. And that's why a lot of people think LinkedIn doesn't work, because let's say they're posting 3 times a week, but they're not commenting, or their posts are to the wrong people, or they're not connecting, or their profile looks bad, right? Everything needs to be working, which is why LinkedIn's hard to crack. But when you crack it, you can be getting 3, 4, 5 leads a week, and in this industry, tenders can be more than 50,000, 200,000, which is why it's so worth it. It takes a lot of time, takes a bit of investment, but it's so worth it once you actually get the result. So that's how you can generate more leads. That's exactly how I would do it. This is exactly how we do it for our clients in the concrete industry and the construction industry. And if you actually put these things that I've told you into practice, you're going to see great results, and you're going to be ahead of all these other concrete and construction companies on LinkedIn. And if you want help with this, if any part of this seems confusing, if you just have a question, if you want this just handled for you, just feel free to give me a comment in the description, or reach out to me on Instagram, and I can give you a hand with this and we can see how we can help.